Okay, so today we can start our first topic. It's called introduction and initial configuration, you can say. Before start our Palo Alto Firewall training, please tell me, do you have any idea about any firewall device? Are you familiar with any firewall device?
Uh, Partially, I'm working with the Palo Alto,
Okay, perfect.
uh, but
Mhm.
I'm not deep. I don't know they're very deep.
Mhm.
I just troubleshoot the traffic issues between client and server, those kind of stuff.
Okay. So if in case if you want to discuss a basic idea, like for example, what is stateful firewall technique, what is transparent firewall technique, so I can discuss. Otherwise, I can directly move on to the Palo Alto firewall box. Can you
You
start
can
from
go ahead.
basic? Can you
Yeah.
start from basic? Okay, perfect. So, okay, so now before start Palo Alto firewall discussion, let's talk about only firewall device. What is firewall device? So in market, we have multiple vendors, right? We have multiple vendors for next generation firewall technology. Like we have Palo Alto, Fortinet. You can see as per Gartner report, we have multiple vendors for next generation firewall. So these are the vendors, Ajit, okay? These are
Mhm.
the vendors for next generation firewall features. It's a Gartner report, okay? And you can download the latest one. You can go onto the Gartner.com website, Gartner, and
Mhm.
you can download the latest report. But you can see right now, these are the vendors. And Gartner divided all the vendors into the four categories. It's called leader in the market, challengers, nice player, and visionaries. So you can see Palo Alto, Fortinet, Cisco, and Checkpoint. These four are the leader in the market right now for next generation firewall features. But yes, we have some nice players, some challengers like Juniper, SonicWall, ForcePoint, Barracuda. We have multiple vendors like for next generation firewall features. But our focus is on what Palo Alto. So you can see Palo Alto is a leader in the market right now. So what is firewall exactly? What is firewall exactly? So firewall is just like a router. Okay. Firewall is just like a router. For example, we can configure routing on router, right? Same, we can configure on firewall device, no problem. We can configure NAT on router. Yes, we can configure on firewall device. VPN we can configure, same we can configure on firewall. So firewall is just like a router. But here in firewall we have some advanced feature, some other features available which router cannot provide you. Clear my point?
Yeah.
So you can say firewall is a system, or you can say group of system that manage access between network. Between network means what? Here we have a network. For example, inside network. It's called inside network, outside network, and DMZ network, right? DMZ network. So inside means what? Our private network, right? Our
Okay.
private LAN network. It's called inside network. Outside, it's a public portion. Public network, public site. What about DMZ? Where we are using
Uh,
DMZ concept?
we place the web server, those kind
Yes, servers, right? We can put our
servers.
servers, for example, these servers I want to allow publicly, right? Outside
Okay.
user can access these servers. So we can create a separate zone, you can say it's called DMZ zone.
Okay.
So whenever traffic is coming, for example, this is your Palo Alto firewall or any firewall device. So this side, it's a outside zone, outside network, and I'm not going to put all my servers in inside network. That's why I'm creating a separate zone. It's called DMZ zone. It's called demilitarized zone. So
Okay.
why I'm creating a separate zone? Because I can put all my servers in my inside zone. For example, I can I can put all my server. This is inside network. So I can put my web server here, FTP server, SMTP server, DNS server. These are the computers. And yes, I have some company confidential servers. These are company confidential servers. So for example, I have only inside network and outside network. So into this topology, if you want to allow some traffic from outside, so yes, you need to configure policy, right?
Yeah.
In case if we are trying to allow some traffic from outside network to inside network, we need to configure policy. Like in Palo Alto, we are creating security policy, right? In
Yeah.
Fortinet, you can create firewall policy. In Checkpoint, you can create access control policy. In FTD, you can create access policy. In Cisco, you can create ACL rule. So to allow traffic from outside to inside, you can create policy, and in policy, you can define your parameter. For example, this machine can access from outside, and yes, as per policy, he can he can only access web server, no problem. As per your policy configuration, Palo Alto is trying to allow this traffic, and this outside machine can only access this destination IP, no problem. But my point is what? Traffic is coming from outside network, right?
Yeah.
Traffic is coming from untrusted network. So it may be possible attacker can insert some malicious information, and can, because traffic is coming from untrusted network. So it may be possible it can try to compromise other devices, right? It
Yeah.
can try. Read.
Yeah.
So it can try to compromise other devices. It may be possible because traffic is not coming from trusted network. Traffic is coming from untrusted network.
Outside.
That's the
Yeah.
issue. That's why we can create a separate zone for these servers, because these servers I want to allow publicly for my outside users. So I can create a separate zone here. It's called DMZ zone. This is a switch. I can put all my servers this side. For example, web server, SMTP server, DNS server, FTP server. So I can put all these servers in a DMZ zone. And now, as per my configuration, this time, if any traffic is coming from outside, any traffic coming from outside and going to hit onto this outside interface. So as per my configuration, my firewall will redirect this traffic onto this DMZ side.
TMCs.
So I will show you this redirection in NAT configuration. We will discuss about destination NAT. So
Okay.
I can show you this redirection, how to redirect our traffic. Clear my point, Ajit?
Yeah, I got it.
So we have three keywords, three terms you can say, inside, outside, and DMZ.
DMs.
Now, every firewall is using this common technique. For example, first technique it's used by any firewall device. It's called stateful firewall technique. Stateful firewall technique. So what is stateful firewall technique? It's a common technique for any next generation firewall. So what is stateful firewall technique? So for stateful firewall technique, I'm creating a small topology, and into this topology, for example, I'm using ASA right now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm using ASS. In Cisco, we have a firewall device. It's called ASA, Adaptive Security Appliance. Okay. To clear a stateful firewall technique, we are using a ASA firewall box into this topology. So this ASA is connected to LAN side. This is a switch.
Uh,
In LAN side, I have a computer, and this portion is outside portion. So now in Cisco ASA, if you are familiar with the Cisco ASA, so Cisco ASA works with security level concept. Do you have any idea about this, Ajit?
no, no.
No problem, no problem. See, Cisco ASA, it's always works with a concept. It's called security level concept. Security level concept. So security level means what? Here we have a security level number, and number is in between 0 to 100. So in case
You mean ACL?
yes, please ask your question.
I don't know. You asked me
Only in
security
Cisco
level
ASA. Yes,
means
only in Cisco ASA.
we create the ACL for those. That's the one you ask talking
Yes,
about.
to filter your traffic, to allow your traffic, you can create ACL, no problem. But right now I'm telling you the basic idea, okay,
Okay.
about Cisco ASA. In Cisco ASA, it works with a concept is called security level.
Level.
Like Palo Alto is a it's called a zone-based firewall. Palo Alto is a zone-based firewall. Palo Alto,
Okay.
Checkpoint, Cisco FTD, these are working with a concept it's called JBF, zone-based firewall.
Okay.
But Cisco ASA works with security level concept.
Okay.
So my point is what? See here, this interface, for example, fast Ethernet 0/0, Ajit, and
Mhm.
this one is fast Ethernet 0/1. So in Cisco ASA, we have some predefined keyword. For example, onto this interface, if I'm using a predefined keyword, it's called INSIDE. It's a predefined keyword inside INSID. If you go onto this interface and type this keyword, so this interface will get a security level 100. Okay, Ajit? And this portion is about outside. So if I'm
Outside.
using any keyword, for example, I'm using outside. Anything you can type here, your name, my name, for example, I'm using outside. So this
Okay.
interface will get a security level 0.
Okay.
Ajit? Now in
Yeah, I
Cisco
got it.
ASA, traffic is by default allow. Traffic is by default allow from higher security level to lower security level. No need to configure any policy in Cisco ASA. No need
Okay.
to configure any policy or rule. By default, traffic is allowed from higher security level to lower security level. Why I'm talking about this topology, why I'm using this technique, this concept, because we are trying to know about what is stateful firewall technique. Okay.
Okay.
So now into this topology, this inside machine, here we are using, for example, 192.168.10.10. So this inside machine is trying to communicate with this outside server. Here
Mm-hmm.
we are using 8.8.8, for example. So now this inside machine is trying to communicate with 8.8.8. So this traffic will go and hit onto this firewall interface. So
Yeah.
when traffic will hit onto the firewall interface, so it's a Cisco ASA. So Cisco ASA always work with security level concept, and you can see as per traffic, you can see traffic is going to hit onto this 0/0 interface. And
Yeah.
onto this 0/0 interface, we have a security level 0. So traffic is trying to travel from higher security level to lower
Lower.
security, right? So I told you in Cisco ASA, no need to configure any policy. By default, traffic is allowed from higher security level to lower security level. So now traffic is traveling. Traffic is
Okay.
traveling. So if traffic is traveling through the firewall box, then firewall will maintain the state of connection in a
Okay.
table, and this table is called state table. So when traffic is traveling through the appliance, then firewall will maintain the state of connection in connection table, you can say, or you can say state table. What it will maintain? It will maintain what? Source IP. Source IP. What is source port number? Destination IP.
Yes.
Destination port number. As per our task, our source IP address is Ajit
Yeah. 192, 160.
192.168.10.10, right?
Yeah.
Let's take a random port number, for example, 65,000. Now, now
Destination.
destination IP. Destination IP is 8.8.8, and he's trying to hit for destination port number 23, for example. So now traffic is traveling through the firewall box, and now when traffic is traveling through the firewall box, then firewall will maintain the state of connection in connection table. Perfect, no problem. But now, what about reply packet? Read.
So
Now
it doesn't allow
8.8.8
because
will give the reply, right?
yeah.
So it will give the reply, and this reply is going to hit onto this interface, and this interface is 0/0. And onto this interface, we have a security level.
0.
So traffic is denied. If traffic is trying to travel from lower security level to higher security level, everything is denied. It's a by default in
Yeah.
Cisco ASA firewall. Ajit. So what about return traffic? So if traffic is going to hit onto this interface, then firewall, see, so whenever any traffic is going to hit onto this firewall interface, then firewall will verify, is this traffic is a part of my any existing connection. So it will check state table information first. So
Mhm.
it can verify, okay, this traffic is coming from 8.8.8, and this traffic is for 192.168. Okay, it's a reply packet. This traffic was initiated from inside network, right?
Inside it. Yeah.
And it's a reply packet. So as based on state table information, Your firewall can check this information. Okay, this traffic was initiated from the inside network, and it's a reply packet. It's not initiated from the outside. It's a reply packet. So it can match information in a state table. If packet match, then it will allow. Otherwise, it will drop.
Okay.
Clear my point?
Yeah, I got
So
it.
this is called stateful firewall technique, and this technique is used by any firewall device. I hope it's clear.
Yeah.
Now,
So this scenario, we have to create another rule to allow lower security level to higher level security level, right?
in case if you want to allow some traffic from outside, for
Traffic
example,
outside.
this machine is trying to initiate some traffic, this machine.
Yeah.
So if you want to allow traffic from lower to higher, so you need to create policy.
Policy.
Higher to lower, no need to create anything. It's by default allowed.
Okay.
But only in Cisco ASA. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now let's talk about next technique. So next technique, it's called layer 2 firewall technique, or you can say transparent firewall. Transparent firewall. So remember always, so it's a common technique, Ajit. It's a common technique. So remember always, we can use our firewall device into two mode. Either you can use your firewall box as a layer 3 firewall box, or you can use as a layer 2 firewall. So you can say layer 3 firewall, or you can say NAT mode firewall. Layer 2 firewall, or you can say transparent firewall. It's a common technique. So
Okay.
what about layer 3? So in case if I have a layer 3 firewall box, layer 3 firewall device, so I can configure IP address onto these interfaces. See, these interfaces are called L3 interfaces. So I can configure IP address onto these interfaces. I can configure routing, VPN, NAT, and it's a next generation firewall. So we can configure next generation firewall feature. No problem. Clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in case, if I'm using this firewall device as a layer 2, in case if I'm using this firewall device as a layer 3 firewall box, for example, a layer 2 firewall box, for example. So this firewall device is now layer 2 firewall box. So if this box is a layer 2, so these interfaces are called layer 2 interface. It's not a switch port, Adit.
Yeah.
It's not a switch port. It's a layer 2
Just
interface.
layer.
It means we cannot configure IP address here. Clear my point?
Yeah.
We cannot configure IP address onto these interfaces. We cannot configure routing onto this firewall box. We cannot configure VPN onto this firewall box. We cannot configure NAT. But yes, it's a firewall. It's a next generation firewall. So we can use next generation firewall feature here.
Okay.
Clear the difference?
Yeah.
Now here is a question. Here's a question. If you talk about NAT mode firewall, or if you talk about layer 3 firewall device, so we have great feature, right? We have great feature with layer 3 firewall box, because in case if this box is layer 3, so we can configure IP address on interfaces, we can configure routing, we can configure NAT, VPN, right?
Yeah.
So we have great feature with layer 3 firewall box. So now where we can use our firewall device as a layer 2, because with layer 2 we have limitations, right?
Yeah.
With layer 2 firewall technique, we have limitation. We cannot
Okay.
configure IP address on interfaces. We cannot configure routing, VPN, NAT. So my point is, in which scenario we can use our firewall device as a layer 3 firewall box? Any idea, Ajit?
Maybe within is the traffic between different subnet or something like that.
Okay, let me clear. See, for
Okay.
example, see, this is what layer, this is routing switching topology, Ajit. Okay. For example, this is router, and this side we have a switch. It's a LAN portion, switch, multiple computers, you can say, multiple computers, and this side it's a WAN side, ISP side. So it's a simple routing switching topology, Ajit.
Yeah.
Simple routing switching topology. It means traffic is coming from, see, traffic is initiated from this machine. It's going to hit onto the switch. Switch is forwarding traffic to the router, and based on his routing table, router will forward this traffic to outside. No problem. Everything is working fine into this topology. Now
Okay.
you can see here is a subnet. Here's a LAN subnet, one subnet you can say. This is your WAN side network, WAN subnet. Now, into this topology, you want to deploy a firewall device here, Ajit. A
Okay.
firewall device. You want to deploy. So in case, if you are trying to deploy your firewall device here in inline mode as a L3 firewall box, then if you deploy this firewall device as a layer 3, so you can see this interface is a layer 3, right?
Yeah.
This interface is layer 3. So each interface, they are participating in different subnet, right?
Yeah.
If you deploy this layer 3 firewall box into this existing scenario, so what you need to do, you need to change your IP address scheme, your existing IP address scheme. See, now your single subnet is divided into two different subnet, different network, right? Clear my
Yeah.
point, Ajit?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to change your IP address scheme. No problem, I can change. No problem, I can change. I want to deploy. I want to deploy my firewall box into this existing scenario. So no problem, I can change my complete IP address scheme. Sure, you can do this. But in case if you don't want to change anything into this existing scenario,
Okay.
if you don't want to change anything, any IP address scheme in your network, so what you can do, you can deploy your firewall device as a layer 2 firewall. Now, so this interface, it's a layer 2 interface. This interface is a layer 2 interface. So no need to configure IP address here. So it's act like a switch, but it's not a switch, Ajit.
Okay.
Okay, so you can put this interface in a zone, for example, LAN zone. This interface is it's a part of WAN zone. Now traffic is traveling through the firewall box. It's a next generation firewall, so you can use firewall feature. No need to change IP address scheme. Now it's a single subnet. Clear my point?
Okay. Yeah. Got it. But
So,
if you if
mhm,
you
mhm.
make like this, all the other functions doesn't work, right?
No, it's a
Uh,
firewall. It's a next generation firewall, so you can use all firewall feature.
no, I'm
But
talking about the interface is if L3 interface,
you
we
cannot,
can
yes, you cannot use L3 features.
L3
But
features.
my point is what? It's a firewall, so
Firewall
you can utilize your next generation firewall features.
features. Okay.
Okay, like wildfire technology, like
Ah, okay, okay.
for
I got it. I
example,
got it.
a security profile concept, app ID concept. Okay,
Okay, okay. I got it.
you
I got
can
it.
use, yes.
Okay.
Now, so my point is what? Now, my point is, so you can deploy your layer 2 firewall box in a live network, right? Like you have your existing data center network, and in your existing data center, you don't want to change your IP address scheme, and you want to deploy a firewall box here. So yes, you can deploy your firewall box as a layer 2 firewall box. So
Okay.
most of the time we are using layer 2 firewall concept in data center, in existing data center network. Clear, Jeet?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's move on to the Palo Alto firewall.
So whatever traffic is goes outside from our internal network, that
Mhm.
should be a L3 firewall, right?
uh in case into this topology, or
No,
can you repeat
commonly.
your question?
So in the case the
Mhm.
router interface is going outside network public,
Mhm.
so that case we have to publish the firewall as a L3, right?
But see, into this scenario, or you were talking about a simple scenario? What? Into layer 2
Any
firewall,
other
or okay,
any other scenario.
okay, in a scenario. Okay. See, now please repeat your question.
So I want to that traffic should okay. This traffic also going outside, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here
So that's
you are not changing IP address.
okay. Okay.
You're not changing any IP address scheme here. Let's see, it's a just like a traffic is going to insert and it's going to out.
Okay. In this case, in this scenario, if you want to do some NAT or something, we have to
No,
do it
you
on
cannot
router.
configure on a search. No, sorry, on firewall you
On the
cannot
firewall.
configure.
We
You
have to do
cannot,
it on
no.
router.
You cannot configure NAT. You cannot configure VPN. You cannot
No, no.
configure.
If I want to do it, I have to do it on router, right?
Exactly, yes. Or yes, router you are using here, so you can use routing, VPN, and NAT concept here. Yes,
On router.
yes.
Okay.
You can
Got it.
say we have limitations in layer 2 firewall box.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, now so let's talk about Palo Alto Firewall. Wait. So now our first topic, it's called platform and architecture. So let's talk about some hardware series, okay, in platform and architecture. So these are the hardware series, okay. You can see we have some high-end appliance. This is just an example, okay.
Okay.
Ajit, okay, if you I have some example with product with firewall products, but if you want to know about more information, like if you want to know about some other product information, so you can go on paloaltonetworks.com/product/secure the network slash next generation
Okay.
firewall. So for other products, you can go onto this website. Here I'm in my example, I'm using some product information. For example, here we have PA7000, PA5200, PA5000. So these firewall devices you can use in a large deployment, or you can use in a data center network. For medium size of network, you can go with PA3000, 800, and 500. For a small network, we can go with the PA200 series of the firewall box. Let me show you. Wait. For example, so this is just an example for PA200 firewall box. You can see
Yeah.
this is PA200 firewall box, and onto this firewall box we have data interfaces. These are called data interfaces. Okay, you can connect your LAN network, your WAN network, your DFZ network. Now you can see here we have a management port. So you can get a dedicated management port to manage this firewall box. What you can do, you can connect your desktop with this management port. By default, we have a IP address. By default, we have
Okay.
an IP address onto this management port. It's called 192.168.10.1. And if you don't have, so no problem. I can show you how to configure IP address on management port. I will show you. But by default, we have IP address on management port, so you can access. Yes, we have a console port. So in case if you want to access your Palo Alto firewall through console, you can. So it's a PA200 firewall device. So we have 4 data interfaces, 4 Ethernet ports, or you can say gigabit Ethernet ports, 1 management port, and 1 console port. If you go with PA220, for example, PA220. So in PA220, what we have 8 data interfaces. You can see
Okay.
8 data interfaces, okay, 1 management port and 1 console port. Clear my point, Ajit?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my point is you can go with the hardware model. Okay. For a small network, you can go with the PA200. For medium sized network, you can go with the PA500, 800, 3000. And for a large deployment, you can go with the PA7000. So here are
Okay.
some product information. But if you want to know about other product series, so you can go on to the paloaltonetworks.com. Now,
Okay.
now we need to discuss some capabilities. For example, which firewall is suitable for my organization? Arit. For example, I'm
Mhm.
working in a small network. I'm working
Okay.
in a small network. So I need to know the firewall capabilities, you can say, or firewall features, you can say. See, here we have PA200, for example. So if you have PA200, so it will provide you 100 Mbps firewall throughput. 50 Mbps is dedicated for threat prevention technique. What is threat prevention technique? Ajit, remember I told you we will discuss about security profile concept, like
Yeah.
antivirus profile,
Antivirus.
anti-spyware profile,
Yeah.
URL filtering profile. So yes, 50 Mbps for dedicated for threat prevention technique. This firewall can support 64,000 sessions. That's why this PA200 you can use in a small network. You have
Mhm.
4 copper gigabit Ethernet port. If you want a bigger one, a higher one, so you can go with PA500 series of the firewall box. PA500 will provide you 200 Mbps firewall throughput, 100 Mbps dedicated for threat prevention technique, 64,000 session it can support, and 8 copper gigabit port. So now you can go for the higher PA 3000, PA 3050, or you can go with PA 5000. So you can see, for example, in PA 5020, it will provide you 5 Gbps firewall throughput, 2 Gbps dedicated for threat prevention technique, and it can support 10 lakh sessions. 10 lakh session, 8 SFP module, and 12 copper gigabit port. So here I'm using some example, Ajit, okay?
Okay.
Otherwise, if you go and check on Palo Alto website, so you can get other product series information. My point is what I want to show you the firewall throughput, number of session with these products. Clear now, my point?
Yeah, depends upon our requirement. We have to choose the
Requirement,
correct
exactly.
model.
Depending upon requirement, you can, for example, your requirement is only for 4 interfaces. So you have a small network, so you can go with the PA 200.
Yeah.
In case if you want SFP ports, SFP module, so yes, you can go with PA 3000, PA 3000, you can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
So now these are called physical devices. Okay, these are the physical hardware devices. So in case if you are looking for VM firewall box, like if you go in Cisco technology, in Cisco, yes, we have a Cisco ASA firewall box. If you have Cisco ASA, it's called complete hardware device. If you have ASA with small v, it's a complete Cisco ASA firewall, but this firewall device we can use in a virtualization scenario. Okay, Ajit.
Okay.
So like Cisco, like other vendor, like Cisco, like Fortinet, Palo Alto will provide you a firewall device for virtualization. See here we have, you can go with the physical boxes, and for cloud environment, like for Azure, for AWS, yes, you can go with PA VM firewall box. See here we have some series, PAVM 500, PAVM 1000 HP, PAVM 300, PAVM 100, PAVM 50. So like physical devices, here we have some capabilities. Like for example, PAVM 500 will provide you for app ID firewall throughput. It will provide you 8 Gbps, set prevention 4 Gbps. So like physical devices, you can go here for from like physical devices. Here we have a sub series, like from lower to, we can go with the higher series of the model. Same in PAVM, VM series of the firewall box. You can go with the PAVM 50. You can go with the higher one, no problem. Yeah, Ajit, my point.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so here my point is what? Here we have option. Either you can go with the physical boxes, or in case if you are working in an AWS scenario, okay, and you want to deploy your firewall box, you want a firewall device for virtualization network. Yes, you can go with, in Palo Alto, you can go with PAVM series of the firewall device. Now, now we need to talk about architecture of the Palo Alto firewall box. So Palo Alto Firewall is using SP3 architecture. SP3 architecture to forward the traffic. And this SP3 architecture, it's called single path parallel processing. Single path parallel processing. So this parallel processing concept, it's introduced by Palo Alto. Now every vendor are using this parallel processing technique, but it was introduced by Palo Alto Firewall box. So it's called SP3 architecture, or you can say Palo Alto architecture. So what is SP3 architecture? See, you can see here, this Palo Alto Firewall, this is complete Palo Alto Firewall box. Okay, Ajit.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
complete Palo Alto Firewall box. And this firewall device is divided into two different planes. It's divided into two different planes. It's called control plane, and second we have data plane. So complete Palo Alto firewall box is divided into two different plane. It's called control plane and data plane.
Data.
So your management port is a part of control plane. In control plane, we have dedicated CPU, RAM, hard disk. So your management port, it's a part of control plane. So what you can do, you can connect your management PC with control plane.
Okay.
Ajit.
Yeah.
If you are trying to configure your Palo Alto Firewall box, you can connect with control plane. Your management port, it's a part of control plane.
Control P.
What
Okay.
about data plane? So data plane we are using for data traffic. Data traffic. So in case, wait. So in case if any traffic is going to hit on any ingress interface, data plane we are using for data traffic. So if any traffic is going to hit onto this ingress interface, then Palo Alto Firewall will create three copy of this packet. It will create three copy of this packet and then send to the processor. So in data plane, we have three separate processor. It's called signature match processor, multi-core security processor, and networking processor. So in
Okay.
data plane, we have three separate processor. You can say signature match processor, or Ajit, you can say content processor. Okay, don't confuse, it's the same. Okay,
Okay.
content processor. So you can say content processor, or you can say signature match processor. We have multi-core security processor and networking processor. So now when traffic is going to hit onto this ingress interface, then your Palo Alto Firewall box will create a three copy packet. Okay, it will create three copy of this packet and then submit to the each processor, submit to the each engine. You can say, or it will submit to the each processor. Now they will do the processing. They will do their processing. For example, signature match processor is taking 1 second, multi-core security processing 1 second,
Mm.
1 second. So they are processing your traffic parallelly. It's not one by one,
Parallel.
Ajit.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
not a one by one. If you remember any YouTube device. So if you have a YouTube device, so in YouTube device, yes, we have multiple engines. Companies and companies, if you are using UTM box, Unified Threat Management, single box can give you multiple solutions. For example, a single box I'm using for routing, for firewall technique, for IPS technique, for app technique, antivirus technique. So in case if you have a UTM device, UTM, Unified Threat Management device, UTM device. So if any traffic is going to hit on any ingress interface, so they will do processing. For example, routing engine will take 1 second to process this traffic information. Then firewall will take 1 second, IPS will take 1 second, antivirus will take 1 second. So you can see they are processing traffic, but they are processing one by one. Okay,
Okay.
Ajit. In
Yeah.
YouTube devices, they are processing traffic one by one. For
One by one.
example, routing processor will process this traffic, then it will submit to the firewall, then it will submit to the next engine, it will submit to the next engine. So they are not processing traffic parallelly. They are processing traffic one by one.
One by
Okay.
one.
So that was the
Okay.
issue with YouTube devices. That's why we are using Palo Alto. Palo Alto is using parallel processing technique. So if any traffic is going to hit onto this ingress interface, Palo Alto Firewall box will create the copy of this packet. It will create three copy of this packet and then submit to the each processor. And now they are processing the traffic parallelly. That's why it will take only 1 second to process this traffic. Clear my point, Ajit?
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Now
So,
let's talk about in detail. Okay, wait.
okay.
Now Palo Alto SP3 architecture. Okay, so let's talk about in detail. Okay, so here we have. Okay. So I told you complete Palo Alto box is divided into two different plane, right? It's
Control
called
plane and
control
then
plane and data plane,
data.
right? So management port, it's a part of control plane.
Plane.
And in data plane, we have three separate processor. It's called networking processor, security
Security.
processor, and
Content
content
process.
processor, right?
Yeah.
Content. So it's a signature match processor. Okay, Ajit, don't confuse. It's a signature match processor, you can say, or you can say content
Content.
processor. So now let's talk about each processor work. So networking processor, it's responsible for routing, flow lookup, status counting, NAT, and similar functions are performed on network specific hardware. So all network related, not all networking related tasks is performed by networking processor like routing, NAT. Now, for user ID, app ID, policy configuration. So if you remember our topic discussion, user ID is a concept, right? Right?
Yeah.
App
Yes.
ID is a concept.
So,
Policy we can create to allow our traffic. So user ID, app ID, policy configuration, encryption, decryption, it's handled by multi-core security processor. Okay.
okay.
Now, what about content processor or signature match processor? So if you remember our security profile discussion, we can create multiple security profile. For example, antivirus profile, anti anti spyware profile, vulnerability protection profile, file blocking profile, URL filtering profile, right?
Yeah.
So for these profiles, we have a dedicated processor. It's called content processor, or you can say signature match processor, or you can say content ID processor. So we have a dedicated processor for security profile concept. Now, what about
Okay.
control plane? What about control plane? So yes, our management, it's a control plane processor, or you can say management processor. So all management related task, it's performed by control plane.
Control.
Clear my point, please?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about again. Wait, let's go on to the slide. So I told you, Palo Alto Firewall box, it's divided into two different plane. The first one is called control plane, and second you can say data plane. So let's talk about control plane again, Ajit. Okay. So
Okay.
here we have a Palo Alto Firewall box. It's a PA firewall box. And onto this firewall box, we have data interfaces. This is data interface, data interface, data interface. And we have one management port here. So this is what management port, MGMT port. This is data interface, and data interface. So now let's talk about control plane concept again. So Palo Alto is divided into two different planes. First one is called control plane. So in control plane only for two traffic used for management. Okay. So control plane we are using for two the firewall technique. For example, I can connect my management PC. It's a management PC with this management port. And in case if I want to configure this complete Palo Alto firewall box, I can access through this management port, right? So
Yeah.
to the firewall traffic, to the firewall only, not through the firewall, to the firewall, it's a part of control plane. So only for two traffic used for management. Okay, this control plane, it's also responsible for HA. So when we will talk about high availability configuration, Ajit, okay,
Yeah.
if you remember, we can configure failover in between Palo Alto firewall box, right?
Yeah.
So here in between Palo Alto firewall box, we are using a link. It's called control link, control link, control link, data link. So these links are part of what?
It's
Control plane,
so control
control
plane.
plane. So it's also responsible for HA. Session synchronization, logging information. What is logging information? What is logging information? So here
Exa-
into this topology, for example, let's change this topology. So into this topology, here we have a switch. Here we have a switch. Now we have a connectivity like this. We have a connectivity like this. And in our control plane side, we have ISP connection. This is ISP connection. Okay, so okay, not required right now, ISP connection. Let's talk about logging first. So into our control plane, we have our remote logging server. Ajit, remote
Okay.
logging server. For example, you have your syslog server, okay, or you have your SNMP server. It means you are sending all your logs on syslog server or on SNMP server. And remember, always by default, logging, logging, logging is a part of, by default, logging is a part of control
Control.
plane. So you need to put your syslog and your SNMP server in control plane side, in management side, by default, by default.
Okay.
In case if you want to change this behavior, no problem. For example, you don't have your syslog server on control plane side. For example, you have your syslog server on, wait, you have your syslog server on DMZ side. For example, this side you have. So yes, you can change this behavior, but by default, logging is a part of
Control plane.
control plane. Now signature update. So in case if you want to utilize next generation firewall features, so you need to download latest signature updates from updates.paloaltonetworks.com. So for signature update, it's a part of control plane. So what we can do, we can connect, this is Wi-Fi modem. So we can connect our switch. Here we have a separate ISP connection. So for example, if this machine is trying to go on google.com or facebook.com, so it's required IP address, mask, gateway, DNS entry, right?
Yeah.
Same, if this management port is trying to, if this management port is trying to go outside to download latest signature update, this interface is also required IP address, mask, gateway, and DNS entry. So by default, to download signature update, we are using control plane portion. Clear, Ajit?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
by
Got
default,
it.
in case in your network you don't have any internet connection on your control plane side. You have a single ISP connection. Okay,
Mhm.
this is what fast Ethernet 0/2. So you have a single ISP connection. So in case if you want to change this behavior, for example, to download latest signature update, I want to use I want to use this interface. So yes, you can change this behavior. I will show you in configuration. I will show you. Clear now my point?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this option. So okay, now let's talk about next option. It's called data interface. So data interface used for through traffic. Through traffic. So in case if you want to allow traffic from one zone to another zone, it's a part of data plane or it's a part of data interface.
That.
Now, Palo Alto operating system is known as PanOS. Like in Checkpoint, we have Gaia operating system, right? In Cisco, we have Cisco iOS. In Fortinet, we have FortiOS. In Palo Alto, it's called PanOS.
PanOS.
So PanOS, it's a Linux-based operating system. It's based on Linux operating system. Palo Alto is a zone-based firewall. It's a zone-based firewall. So Palo Alto, Checkpoint, okay, Checkpoint, and Cisco FTD. These firewall devices, these are called zone-based firewall. So in
Okay.
case if you are working with any zone-based firewall, so you need to configure everything manually. Like if you remember Cisco ASA firewall discussion, in Cisco ASA firewall, by default traffic is allowed from higher security level to lower
Lowers.
security level. No need to create, no need to configure any policy. Ajit.
Yeah.
But in Cisco ASA, right?
Yeah.
In case if I'm working with a Palo Alto firewall box, like zone-based firewall box, so you need to configure everything manually. For
Everything.
example, you need to create zone manually. If you want to, if for example, LAN zone, you can create and you can put your interface into their respective zone and to configure to their respective zone. Or in case if you want to allow traffic from one zone to another zone, you need to configure security policy manually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So Palo Alto is a zone-based firewall box. It's also called object-oriented firewall box. So Palo Alto, Cisco ASA, Checkpoint, Cisco FTD, okay, and These 14.8, these are called object-oriented firewall. So here we can create object like IP address object, service object. So we can create objects here, and these objects we can use in our configuration. How to create object and what is object, I will tell you. Okay, in configuration I will tell you.
Okay.
But remember always, Palo Alto is a object-oriented firewall. Clear?
Okay.
So
So that
interface.
means we have to
Yes.
create any object like one PC 51.10.29 dot something. So I have to create that host on the firewall, then we have to
Yes.
assign the policy, right?
Yes, you can create
Okay.
single IP address object or subnet object or
Okay.
range object. These
Okay.
objects you can attach with your policy, with your security
Okay.
policy, with your NAT policy.
Okay. No, that means the object oriented.
Yes, that's why it's
Okay.
called object oriented. We can
Object
create
oriented.
object
Okay.
here. Yes.
Okay.
Now interfaces should be configured to respective zones. So Palo Alto is a zone-based firewall box. You can create zone, and interfaces should be configured to respective zone. By default, wait. Okay, by default, services, this is what your management port, MGMT port. So by default, nothing is allowed. You can say ping, SSH, and HTTPS. These services are not enabled on data interfaces.
Data.
So you can say nothing is allowed on interfaces, on data interfaces only. If you talk about management port. So on management port, these services are enabled. Only these services. Ping, SSH, and HTTPS services are enabled on management interface. So this is what management PC. Management PC. So we can configure.
Okay. Hello.
Okay, let's take a break for 2 minutes. Alit?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Break, wait. Hello, Ajit, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah. Yeah. I'm here.
Let's continue. So now, see, by default, these services are enabled on management interface by default. So what we can do from management PC, I can ping to this interface. For CLI access, I can go with SSH option. For graphical access, I can go with HTTPS. So by default, ping, SSH, and HTTPS services are enabled on management interfaces.
Okay.
Now, in case if you want to allow traffic from one zone to another zone, you need to create security policy. See, security policy should be configured to communicate between multiple zones. Traffic is always unidirectional from source to destination. Okay, it means if you want to allow traffic from LAN to WAN, you need separate policy. If you want to allow traffic from WAN to LAN, you need separate policy. Clear now?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Now, next concept, it's called policy based.
You said the last statement like if you generating traffic from inside one LAN to one,
Hmm.
then the
You need separate
same.
policy. You need separate policy. If you want to allow traffic from LAN to WAN, okay, you need
Okay.
separate policy.
No, if you're generating from LAN, then it's going to WAN. The
Okay.
same traffic is coming from WAN to LAN. There's no need separate policy, right?
See, same traffic means what? If traffic is allowed, okay, from
Okay.
LAN to WAN, if traffic is allowed, okay, and traffic is traveling, then it's a stateful firewall device, right?
Yeah, the section will be
So
saved
firewall,
on the
yes. So for this, see, Traffic was initiated from the LAN side, Ajit.
Yeah.
And now if reply is coming, firewall will allow because it's a
Allow.
part of connection table.
Okay.
My point is, if you want to allow traffic from WAN to LAN, it means traffic
Okay.
was initiated from
One
WAN
side,
side. Then you need to create separate
another
policy.
policy. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Now, policy-based forwarding. So here we have a concept of PBR, PBF, you can say, policy-based forwarding. So if you configure any entry in policy-based forwarding, so policy-based forwarding can be done which overrides security policy rule. So if you configure any entry in policy-based forwarding, your firewall is not going to check your security policy rule. It will check traffic information in policy-based forwarding, and based on policy-based forwarding, it can take an action. What is
What do you mean by that?
policy-based forwarding?
Okay.
I will show you in configuration. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
But right now, I'm telling you what.
Okay.
Here we have two options, Ajit. You can create your traffic entry in policy-based forwarding. Okay. And you
Okay.
can create your entry in security policy.
Security policy.
Now, so if you configure any policy, any traffic information in policy-based forwarding, and for same source and destination, if you create some rule in security policy rule, so your firewall will check traffic information first in policy-based
Policy.
forwarding. Okay.
Okay.
It's and if it is matched, then it's not going to check any traffic into security policy. It will match, then it will forward the traffic. So what we can define in policy-based forwarding, because we are familiar with the security policy rule, right? To allow our traffic, we can create security policy, no problem. What is policy-based forwarding? So I will tell you, okay, in configuration, I will tell you what is policy-based forwarding. Clear now?
Yeah.
Okay, Ajit, let's continue this topic tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Packet flow we'll discuss tomorrow. And
Okay.
I'm sharing this video at 10 p.m. because I have continuous batches. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
will share
All
at
right, no
10
problem.
p.m. Okay.
Okay.
Ajit, take care. And see, now session is on Monday.
Okay.
Our training is Monday to Thursday. So
Thursday.
you can
Okay.
connect on Monday at 6:30.
Okay. All right.
Ajit, take
Thank you, sir.
care. Good night.
Okay. Good night. Bye.
Thank you.